So I just wanted to share with you a kind of a journey of what's going on with a couple that I'm working with. So I asked the question when I saw them, I asked her the question, how are things? What's changed? And she replied by saying, nothing's changed. We've been working together for quite some time, and a few weeks ago she had complained that things weren't right, that things weren't right in their relationship, and that they weren't focusing enough on their relationship. And immediately when she started talking and explaining what hadn't changed, you could see the expression on the husband's face of upset, annoyance, frustration, disappointment. All of those things came, and anxiety. I could see it. I know this couple quite well, and I could see that he was really getting quite anxious. And he then responded by saying, but I've done this, and I thought I was really making an effort, and I'm really trying, and I think, things are very different. And she responded by saying, well, no, they're not. And it's not, I'm not blaming you, but circumstances, which are basically around his business, it can't be helped. But I'm saying that things haven't changed, and they're not going to change for the foreseeable future. And he then was quite, he then kept defending himself. He wasn't hearing what she said. He was trying to justify and work out in his head why things weren't, why she was complaining. Yes, but this is the reason, that's the reason, and I've had problems with X, Y, and Z. And that's exactly what she was saying. Due to circumstances beyond your control, things aren't changing. And you are just as frustrated as I am because of that situation. And then he went back and he was still defending himself. So I observed this. I find it interesting to watch interactions between people. I learn a lot. and then because it's not for me to interfere unless I see things really getting out of control. It's not for me. I observe, and then I can comment on it afterwards on what went on there and what happened there and what could have been done differently. So what happened was that eventually they both both stopped for a moment. I said it's quite interesting because from where I'm sitting is that you're both agreeing with each other. You're both frustrated about a situation that's out of your control. And they both stopped. Yeah, that's it. And what was more valuable in that whole exchange, in that little scene that evolved, was not what the content of what they were arguing about, or what that heated discussion was, but the difference that had happened because of how they've evolved their relationship and as people. So going back to when I first started working with them, he would have stormed out of the room because he couldn't cope. He would have felt so overwhelmed by the whole situation that he would have walked away. She would have just stopped. She wouldn't have said anything because she would have been fearful of his responses, and she was concerned about them. Not that he would get physically aggressive, but because of his verbal outbursts that scared her. That's where the growth has come. That's where the change has come. Because when I saw that recently, he didn't leave the room. He didn't fly into a rage. And yeah, he would have done in the past. There's no pretense when I'm there. They're completely relaxed about being themselves. She would not have spoken up. And that's where the difference is. That's what's different about it. Their discussion was heated. They weren't listening to each other. No, they weren't listening to each other. They weren't hearing what the other person was saying. Their pain was so great they couldn't hear each other's responses. But the difference was that they are more able to be more introspective and to behave differently. He is much more able to deal with his outbursts. All of those reasons we've worked on, and he's much more able to control that, which was uncontrollable before. And she can speak up. She's able to say what she feels. She's more able to speak up to him and to friends, where she wasn't able to in the past. That was such an amazing thing to see. And that is what is great about when I work with couples. I love this work because I see such a difference in the way couples evolve their relationship. And it's not for me to say what their relationship should be like. Everybody's different. But if it's not working for them, that's where I intervene and help them. And communication is one of the biggest problems. Not being able to communicate, because what happens to us is either we're too scared to go there because of the response that we might receive, and that was the case with the female client, the wife. She was too worried about saying anything, but it was bubbling up inside her and causing resentment, and he was feeling so wounded that he wasn't able to control the way he responded. So it's about communication and being able to talk to each other and hear each other. Because, as I say, what happens is when somebody makes a comment, it taps into something often totally unrelated. It might be something from the past. We hear those negative words that trigger us, and we respond to those negative words. We immediately want to defend ourselves, and the best way of defending ourselves is attack. You had a go at me. I've heard you tell me that I'm failing in some way, because we only pick up on the negative words, and now I'm going to get you back because you're not so perfect as you're pretending you are. And then it goes backwards and forwards. And before you know, the whole argument is escalated way out of control. And the initial discussion, the initial thing that was spoken about is completely lost. When I ask people, well, what started the argument? I don't know. I haven't got no idea what the initial thing we were what it started it. And I know it because I've been there myself. What on earth were we arguing about? So it is being able to stop and listen, take that deep breath, and be able to hear what the other person's saying. And then instead of trying to defend ourselves, be more curious. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that. I'm feeling, or even say, look, I'm feeling a bit upset about this. Can we just check this out, because I don't want this to escalate any further. These two, they did. They voices got raised. They were both intent on making their point. And that's fine, because we do need to be able to say how we're really feeling safely without somebody getting angry or throwing out those horrible obscenities and personal comments, which they didn't. Neither of them were personal. They just said, look, this is a situation. I don't feel happy about this. I really feel upset because that things aren't changing, but I understand it can't change. And then he was saying, well, yes, it can't change because of X, Y, and Z, and I wasn't expecting that to happen. He was giving all the reasons. But they both knew that. And I said, well, but you're both on the same page here. It's interesting, isn't it? That actually you're not really arguing. You're both coming from a different place, but you both understand that things can't change. And she was saying, yeah, they can't change, but I'm just acknowledging it, and I'm able to say that they can't change, and I feel miserable about it, and so do you. And then eventually he said, yeah, I do too. So that is where, yeah, we're always going to have arguments. We can't agree on the same things, but it's how we deal with those arguments. It's how we are able to say things safely in a relationship